I do hope it's been a good morning. I know it's a cold, rainy morning. I personally love the cold weather. I absolutely love it. You know, I was coming this morning with my dad, and he dropped me off. And I told him, "Oh, it's raining, but I can't complain because I like this weather. I prefer rainy weather to sunny weather because rainy weather it takes away convenience. Yeah. See, when there's no rain, things are convenient, especially movement. Yeah. Come out to church, come out to church. If someone shows up to church with rain that has fallen today, you know, someone shows up, you get to understand that this is someone who's genuinely serious about their work with God. Because today, rainy weather takes away convenience. You have an excuse. You have the kind of excuse where you can tell someone, didn't you see the rain? You know, it's like with that rain, things were hard. So that's one of the great things about rain. It takes away convenience. It takes away that comfort that would otherwise have, that would make us feel like, you know what, I can just lay back and take it easy and take it slow. Yeah. But that's not why I like it. I don't like it because it takes away. I like convenience, right? But I like it because I prefer cool weather. The sun doesn't work for me. It's too hot. You know, sweating. You sit in the house, you don't have peace. It makes you even spend more because you have to buy fans. And so on and so forth. Yeah. I remember when it was hot, people thought I was joking, but I was serious. The good thing the weather changed. I had a plan to buy 2 fans. Put one at the foot of the bed, the other at the head of the bed. At night, just leave them on. You know? Yeah. But we're continuing in our series in the book of Ecclesiastes. And our series is titled The Search for Meaning. The Search for Meaning. We live in a world where people are consistently searching for meaning. Now, last week we went through a lesson titled The World is Not How God Intended. Because indeed it is not. You know, when God created the world, his plan was not that there would be all this malice, that there will be all this hatred, that there will be all this injustice, you know, corruption, oppression, wickedness, right? That was not God's plan for his world. He wanted a world that was awesome, a world that was holy. You know, the truth is life is not fair. And that's not what God intended. But when you have so many sinful people in the world, that's what you end up with. That's what you end up with. You end up with a world that is just the complete opposite of what God planned. See, we talked about the wickedness in the world, but we also had a moment to evaluate ourselves. And so the question is, yes, we may see the wickedness in the world, but are you contributing to it? Are you contributing to it? You know, are you adding to the wickedness in the world? And you see, that's the beauty about being a disciple of Jesus Christ. You're able to stop making that contribution. Dare I say, you're able to give back. You know, you're able to do it. You know, when Jesus said, when they slap you on this cheek, you turn the other cheek. You know, until you're a true disciple of Jesus Christ, you never understand how exactly to do that. You know, they slap you and you're like, ah! And it may not be a physical slap. Maybe someone may do something. You know, you live with someone, they leave dishes unwashed after they've used them. Some people have laughed too hard on that one. You know? And then you're like, slap. How am I going to respond to this? Can I turn the other cheek? Really? Really? You know? And it just becomes a tug of war. You raise hell in the house. How dare you? Go crazy, right? But it's only by being a disciple that you're able to stop contributing to the wickedness in the world. Yeah. So we also talked about envy and how envy motivates people to work hard. So many people today live in this world saying, I need to do this so that I can be better than so-and-so. I need to work hard so that I can be better than so-and-so. I need to work hard in this area so that I can be better than so-and-so. I feel like if I'm at this stage, I'll be looked down on, yet someone who is at this stage is being praised. So I need to move from here to here so that I can make it in life. So that my life can have meaning. And there's so much envy, and people end up working hard because of the envy. Why are you working hard this morning? Is it to show the person next to you that you're doing better? Perhaps better than they are. Why are you working hard this morning? Is it for God or is it because of envy? And this applies in all areas. You know, It could be financial life. Where you're like, I need to get this job. And it gets to a point where you're even given advice. You're like, don't take that opportunity because it's going to negatively impact your work with God. And you're like, but. The reason why that but is there, you need to ask yourself, is that envy? If it's going to cost you your work with God, why are you so passionate about keeping it? For who? There are people who have walked away from God because of jobs. And they've taken up these jobs because of themselves. I need to get somewhere in life. I need to be here. I need to be able to walk into a room and they say, what do you do? Well, I work at fill in the blank. Yeah. Office of the Prime Minister. But the question is, are you motivated by envy? It could be even in physical life. Physical life. Now, as I said, as I give this example, I want to make it clear that I am not coming at anyone. But sometimes it can be physical life, like going to the gym. Right? Yeah. Because in your head, you've imagined that when you look a certain type of way, when you walk by, everybody will look at you and be like, yeah. You know? But is there envy? Who are you trying to impress? Are you working hard because of envy? Right? And you know, one of the downsides of envy is it creates a problem. And that problem is loneliness. Envy creates the problem of loneliness. And we're going to talk about loneliness today. We're going to talk about loneliness today. See, the title of our, not loneliness per se, but the title of our lesson is The Cure for Loneliness. The cure for loneliness. You see, we live in a world plagued by the epidemic of comparison. I don't have what they have. I don't have a car like theirs. I don't have a job like theirs. I don't earn the kind of money they do. I don't have their physique. I don't have their hair. I don't have their skin. I don't have their house. I don't have what they have. And there's so much comparison, which leads to envy. So how I wish I was richer than so-and-so. How I wish that I looked better than so-and-so. How I wish that I earned more than so-and-so. And there's all this envy. And the envy creates insecurity. So many people are insecure. So many people are insecure. You meet so many men and women today who are so insecure. And on top of that, they are so lonely. Because they feel like they're not enough because they don't have what other people have. And so somebody is moving around thinking that maybe if I make it in life, I will be loved. Maybe I'll have all these people around me and we'll have a great time and they'll think I'm awesome and this will happen because I look like this, I have this, I live in this place, I do all these different things. And there's all this loneliness because you're in a room feeling so insecure, thinking, maybe people are thinking a certain type of way about me because I'm not like this. Right? And you end up in a situation where there's so much loneliness. So much loneliness. And here's the downside. Some people eventually even get those things that they desire. But now they're still lonely because they don't trust those around them. Like maybe, and it's so strange, you know? It's like maybe they're around me because of what I have. Say, if I lost this appearance, would they still be here? If I lost this job, would they still be here? If I lost my house, would these people still be around me? If I lost my reputation and my status, would these people still be around me? You see, celebrities have something. They have people called groupies. Groupies are those people who are always walking with celebrities. He's walking, he has people, you know. There's a bodyguard, yes, but there's a gang, right? And they're walking, and many celebrities don't actually trust their groupies. Because their groupies are not there because they love that person. They are there because of who that person is. The day the rubber hits the road, the day he stops or she stops being a celebrity, groupies are not picking up your calls anymore. Now you're going back to those friends who you abandoned back then. You know?
Come on, bro.
But see, it can be quite lonely living in a world and living a life where God is not the source of your meaning. It can be so lonely living in a world where your meaning comes from all these different things. I think we talked about the 5 W's: wine, women, wealth, wisdom, and work. Thank you. It can be so lonely living a life where you get your value from these things. It can be so lonely. But if you think about it, you think about the people around you. The question you need to ask yourself is, who do you trust? Are you like a celebrity with groupies? Or do you actually have meaningful relationships around you? See, who really knows you, not just the image you portray. Like they really know you. They know what you go through. They know what you struggle with. They know what your battles are. Who really knows you? Right? Are we building meaningful connections? Come on, bro. See, the beauty of being a disciple is that you come into a family of God where you can actually be open and honest. Yeah. And make friendships where people actually know you. But we'll talk about that. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Let's go, bro. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Picking it up in verse 7. We'll be picking it up in verse 7. So in verse 7, it says this. Again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. Yet there was no end to his toil. Yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling, he asked. Why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless, a miserable business. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. You see, it's so interesting what Solomon talks about right here. Yeah. He's talking about a man who has no son, no brother, but can't get enough of their work. They're working so hard, but they don't even have someone to share their success with. Yeah. They're working so hard, but they don't even have someone to share their prosperity with. Right? And he talks about the benefits of an honest and meaningful relationship. He basically asks the question, what's the use of money if you have nobody to share it with? Yeah. Think about it. What's the use of money when you have no one to share it with? You make so much money, but you're seated in your house alone. Like, I have this mansion, but I'm just here alone. This house is big. I wish there were people to fill it. I wish there were people to fill it. See, what's interesting, if you read from verse 9 to about verse 9, specifically verse 11, it's often used to talk about the benefits of marriage, but actually, it's not specifically referring to marriage. The part about laying down and keeping warm, it's not specifically talking about marriage. If you study it out, you find out that he's actually referring to business partners. Business partners, people who would be traveling together, and specifically people of the same gender. Now, this is not advocating for homosexuality or anything of the sort, but that was the context of this writing, because back then, 2 people would travel together. You know, it would be 2 men maybe going to work together, business traveling. And what would happen is, due to the nature of the landscape and the terrain at that time, you could easily find you fallen maybe into a ravine or something of that sort. And so if you're moving as 2, there'll be someone to get you out when you fall. Right? But if you're alone and you fall, you're at the mercy of God, really. You know, praying, just shouting, somebody help me. Is there anyone who can hear me? Right? And when they'd be traveling together, what would happen is sometimes they would have to sleep outside under the elements. Right? And so what would happen is, in order to keep warm, they would use body warmth. Right? They would use their body warmth to keep each other together, warm. And so if you're just one, that wind is going to go through you. You know? And you'd be what? You'd be cold the whole night, and you could even get sick from that. Right? So that's what he's referring to when he's talking about keeping warm. Come on, bro. And even he talks about how, for instance, where is it? In verse 12, where it says that one may be overpowered, but 2 can defend themselves. It talks about how people will be moving, and sometimes the roads are not safe. And so you may bump into thugs, but if you're 2, you have a better chance of overcoming them. Right? But if you're only one, there's a high chance that you'll be overpowered. You'll be robbed, you'll be beaten, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then he further goes on to talk about a cord of 3 strands not being quickly broken. And so what's the whole point of this? Well, firstly, like I said, he's talking about the value of meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
But the question is, which meaningful relationships do you have in your life? What meaningful, honest relationships do you have in your life?
Come on, bro.
You see, my first point today is quite simple. Choose honest relationships over prideful independence. Choose honest relationships over prideful independence. That's my first point for today. See, what meaningful relationships, what open, honest relationships do you have? He goes on to talk about a cord of 3 strands, and basically he's saying one person alone cannot meet your needs. One person alone cannot meet your needs. You need to have people who you can go to, confide in, and have a genuine relationship with. People who, you know, when I sit down with these people, they're going to call me out on my sin. Yeah. They're going to help me change. They're going to help me be a better person for God. They're going to help me grow as a Christian. But are you investing in your friendships? Are you investing in your friendships? Stop and think about it. Because it's very easy. Say, hey, love you, bro. Hey, sis. How you doing? How you doing? But is it just on the surface, or are you actually friends? If we put you in a room alone, would one sit in the other corner, one sits in this corner, and everybody's quiet the whole time? Can't even know there's someone in the room. Or would it be the kind of situation where when you're in a room, you're going to banter and chat, you're going to talk and interact because you have a genuine friendship? See, people don't often get the importance of friendships. People think that maybe if I get successful enough, I'll be fine. Then you end up in that loop of, okay, I have everything that I thought I'd ever need, but the people around me who I expected to be there for me, the people who I expected to make this worthwhile, I'm not even sure if I can trust them. What will happen if the money goes? They're not really my friends. Are you investing in your friendships? Many people think, maybe if I attain the 5 W's, maybe if I get those, I'll be fine. But stop and consider the most prosperous countries in the world. If I'm not mistaken, I believe in 2018, the UK set up a new position in their government. It's called the Minister for Loneliness. Wow. Minister of Loneliness. I think it's for of Loneliness. The current one is called Stuart Andrew. Minister for Loneliness. Because there's so many lonely people in the world. This is a first world country. These are countries where they don't see electricity going out. That one comes from my heart, because yesterday I got home and there was no power. And I had stuff to do. And then it would come back. And then the moment I was like, oh, it's back, then it's off again. Right? No, man, it's Uganda. You know, someone told me with now umeme going and whatnot, you can expect a bit of that. Right? It's the same thing. Even umeme was doing the same thing. Right? But that's a first world country. Yeah. That's a first world country. I remember someone once telling me about the problems in a first world country. You know? Oh, your neighbor will come and report you. You parked your car in my parking spot. That's the problem. It's not today we don't have water, today we don't have power. It's not potholes. It's not corruption. It's you parked in my parking spot. That's their problem. And people struggle because of a parking spot. First world problems. First world you need to keep on the street. You know? Today I was walking, so I met Kabaka around people running. I saw this guy is running with his dog. And these guys were joking. If I fear dogs, they would have gotten me. If you fear dogs, I'm sorry for you. So it's this big, it's a beautiful dog. I love dogs. A bulldog, you know? It's one of those ones that are big and nice. So it's moving. So this guy makes a joke while I'm passing. It's like, and he says it in Luganda. It's like, by the way, it eats people. It doesn't like people who wear suits. I just passed by him and I smiled and he smiled back. And I was like, okay, you know? Or else you find the dog on the street around. But I think that was a private dog. It was a great dog, you know? But you go to the city centers and there are dogs everywhere. Yeah. Stray dogs. There they see that they say, I'm going to call the dog pound. Ask a Ugandan what a dog pound is. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. We do not know that. You only hear it in movies, the dog pound. We're going to put that dog down. So put it down. Why are you carrying it? You know? All right? It's like, is it a child? Let it sleep. But these are the kinds of places where loneliness is an issue. People are committing suicide. Suicide. Japan did the same thing. Japan set up a minister for loneliness simply because people were committing so much suicide. I think Japan was 2022, London was 2018. I think Japan, it was coming out of COVID. And the current guy is called Tetsushi Sakamoto. Yeah. I have you. If I pronounce it wrongly, none of you is Japanese. You won't know. You won't know. You just accept. Yes. Anyways, what's the goal of all this? These are some of the most prosperous places in the world. The places where people say, if only I can live here and go there, my life will get better. But these are the same places that are saying we need a minister for loneliness because people are so lonely in this developed place. The world's richest man, Elon Musk, on many occasions has talked about how he struggles with loneliness. Yeah. There's an article that I read and it reads, I'm just going to read a bit of the article. It says, Mr. Musk recently split with the musician Grimes, with whom he shares 2 children. And said he often only had his dog for company. Now, imagine, world's richest man, hundreds of billions of dollars in net worth. Like, I struggle with lonely, all I have is my dog. This is what Musk said. I'm sure there are times when everyone is lonely, he said. Say, if I'm working on the Starship rocket and I'm just staying in my little house by myself, especially if my dog is not with me, I feel quite lonely because I'm just in a little house by myself with no dog. With no dog. It's the world's richest man. World's richest man. I remember Elon Musk saying, most people don't actually want to be me because of what I go through. Saying that so much goes through his mind that most people would not want to be him. But these are the people who look at him and are like, even if you gave me just one, I don't want all your, just 1 billion, not all of them. My life will be better. Like, I don't want, like some of us will honestly admit, like 300 billion is too much for me. I just need just only one. Even if you give me 1 million. Or some they'll say, even if it's just 100,000 US dollars. The currency is key, right? But the world's richest man has often come out to speak about his loneliness and how lonely he is. This is important for us to have meaningful friendships. Proverbs 18. Proverbs chapter 18. How are your friendships this morning? How are your friendships this morning? How are your friendships this morning? Proverbs 18, verse 24. Proverbs 18, verse 24. It says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. It's good to have friends, but what kind of friends do you have? Are they friends who make you grow? Or are they friends who are okay watching you destroy yourself? You know, one of the things I appreciate from studying the Bible, from being a disciple, from having people in my life, is nobody will watch you doing something silly and keep quiet. Yeah. There'll always be someone who comes up and says, but bro, what you did was not okay. And what's interesting is they usually do it free of charge. That's the part that's really fascinating, because the question you have to ask is, what does that person gain by correcting you? What does that person gain by asking you to make a godly change? What does that person gain by helping you to be a godly man or woman?
Come on, bro.
What kind of friends do you have?
Come on.
Because I remember before I ever opened the scriptures and chose to be a disciple, I had friends, but they were not the kind of friends who would call me out. They're not the kind. You say, "Oh, bro, I did something wrong. It was not okay." No, bro, don't worry. Everyone does that. You're okay. Everyone does that. That's normal. Everybody does that. Why? Don't stress, man. Don't stress. Even me, man. Even me. You know. But what kind of friends do you have? Because the Bible says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. Soon comes to ruin. Who really knows you? Who are your reliable friends? You see, Elon Musk's story should convict us. Because we chase after so many things. The 5 W's. We chase after so many things and expect that and still feel lonely. What are you chasing after and still feel lonely? What is it for you? See, if you can't find happiness in your walk with God, minus all that stuff, you're not going to find happiness even when you get that stuff.
Yeah. True.
See, now I'm going to speak to the disciples on this one. Do you know it's also possible to feel lonely in the church?
Yeah.
That's true. Very true.
It's quite possible. Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 6.
Come on, bro.
2 Corinthians chapter 6. See, it's very easy to interact with people but not really get close.
Yeah.
It's very easy. It is very easy.
Yeah.
You know. And in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, look at what Paul says to the church here in verse 11. In verse 11, 2 Corinthians 6, verse 11, he says, "Hide our hearts to you. We are not withholding our affection from you, but you're withholding yours from us. As a fair exchange, I speak as to my children, open wide your hearts also." You see, it's very easy to interact with people but not get close to them, not get open. Yeah. And one of the things that I appreciate with time after doing, now, I think I also could pick up a lot of this even before I ever studied the Bible. But to some extent, I find it easy to read people. So what do I mean? I mean, I can see your body language and I'm like, this person is struggling. I'm sure there's some people who have had me say, "Hey, bro, sis, how you doing?" Out of nowhere. It's because I see your body language. Your face just reflects it. Have you ever seen someone smile? But the eyes don't also smile. And you're like, like you've had a rough day. You see someone walking and you just look at their eyes. Like, there's no light in your eyes. Things are not okay.
Yeah.
Right? See, you can read someone's body language and tell if they're not doing, "I'm fine." Say, "You're fine." What does fine mean to you? There's a joke that I had, and the joke was, tell that to your face. Like you do someone, "Oh, how are you?" "I'm fine." "Really?" "No, tell that to your face." Because you're saying it with your mouth, but your face is telling me a completely different story.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on, bro.
But are you willing to be vulnerable and open with the people that God has put in your life?
Good question.
Are you willing to be vulnerable and open with the people that God has put in your life? 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 11 tells us that. Paul is telling them, guys, we have been vulnerable and we have poured out our hearts to you. Please trust us. Speak to us. And one of the things we need to understand is it takes emotional maturity to open up your heart. It really does. Because there is always the chance that you'll get hurt. There will always be the chance that when you're vulnerable, you'll get hurt.
Yeah.
And when you open up your heart, you'll get hurt. But are you willing to open yourself up for that?
That's
Imagine if Jesus was not willing to get hurt.
Hey.
See, one of the things that fascinates me, I was reading the book of John and I realized that even if Jesus knew that Lazarus was going to be resurrected, he still wept. Like, well, why would he cry if he knows what he's about to do? Imagine it's you. The people are crying, he has died, he has died. You show up the place, you're about to resurrect a man. And then would you cry? But Jesus was able to connect with people to the point where he was able to let himself feel what they were feeling.
Yeah.
And he wept.
Come on, bro.
Imagine if Jesus held back his heart. See, the true measure of a man or a woman is their willingness to open up their heart and get hurt.
Yeah.
That's the true measure. That's the true measure. But do we have the emotional maturity to do that? Maturity to build relationships. Romans chapter 12 with anyone. Romans is this side. Romans chapter 12. We'll be reading from verse 16. From verse 16 it says, live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. You know, it's so interesting to see this because it talks about how you should be willing to associate with anyone. You should be willing to associate with people in low position. But are you willing to associate with anyone? Are you willing to associate with anyone? I know you may see me in a tie and, but I only dress like this on Sunday. Honestly, I only dress like this on Sunday. Those who have seen me outside of this room on another day, I'm always in jeans or khakis or, I'm just chilling. I'm just a chill guy, just pocket, But one of the things that, hey, maybe I've not gone after it as much as I would have, but it's being able to associate with anyone and everyone.
Come on, bro.
I think yesterday at the devotion, I shared a story with the disciples that were there. My first job, I was a driver. And being a driver really taught me a lot about the people who do the jobs that we consider menial or low status jobs. So my mindset changed towards people who do, because I grew up, for the most part, pretty privileged, right? And so when I got a chance to do that job, it changed the way I would ask. Because that whole day, I'm associating with people who are doing that job because they have nothing else to do. Like, life is so bad, they're like, at least I have a driving permit. Let me put food on the table. Yeah. And there were people who would do that job and they would work. Someone doesn't sleep for like 2 days because they need to make money to take back home. And they sit and they take all sorts of treatment. All sorts of treatment. I appreciated that job because it taught me how to respect people who do jobs that are considered low status jobs.
Come on, bro.
It taught me how to interact with people. I remember I was sharing at the Devo yesterday. I just remember that job. Like, I would sit down, there's a lady who would come selling chapatis and black tea. And I'll get out of the plastic cups and ask a hot tea cooked with water and the ones with oil. You go and sit with all the drivers. You sit in a circle. Huh? And you hear their conversations and they talk about all these different things. What? And I'll get home when I'd go to see my parents. And I just have a different outlook on the house help. So I'm like, wow, these are people too. Yeah, because often we can treat them like they're not. But do you have that respect? Do you have the ability to associate with anyone? And you know what's interesting? It takes honesty, it takes humility. Everyone especially when you come from different worlds. I've just given the example of the different classes. It can be because I have to interact with people, but my Uganda is not so good to English because they're like, okay, I mean, it's English. I think it's British anymore. So that was full of only CEOs, never. Consider Jesus. Jesus came to one here. If I ask him, do you want to go to heaven? Yes. Do you want to go? Yes. The weather is just constantly good. What? You have all this. He left that. And he came to earth. Think about the time that he came. It's not a time where we have flashing toilets and things are good sewage system. What? We complain about floods. But in their days, what we have today, it would have been magic. But that's when he came. They didn't have smartphones.
Come on, bro.
Today, someone that have a smartphone and they feel like their life is going to end.
Sure.
Jesus could have come and he becomes a you come and you're like, hey, it has been this hot. But consider the time that he came. He came from heaven and he found a group of unschooled individuals. Now, some was knowledgeable, like Matthew. He was balling, he was a baller. Yeah, Matthew was quite rich. And he made them his best friends. Matthew 26.
Come on, bro.
Matthew 26.
Let's go, bro.
Matthew 26.
Oh, bro.
From verse 36. I want you to notice something about Jesus. Verse 36 says, then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. And so Jesus meets this. He goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. He's with everyone, but he gets only three. James, John, Peter. And he gets open about what he's really going through. He gets open about how he's really feeling. He had his three closest friends. Remember how we talked about a cord of three strands? A cord of three, was it three strands? Something like that. Yeah. Right? So like that cord, you may not be able to talk to everyone. And let's be realistic. You may not be close with every single one. Where everyone you say like, this is my G. Yeah. But at least, do you have three close people? Three people that you're close to. Three people that you can honestly sit down and have an honest conversation with them. So if you have a hard time building relationships, you're going to have a hard time as a disciple. Because as disciples, people are going to always be going and coming. Mission teams will be set up. People will leave. Like, oh no, my best friend has gone. Maybe for some, it may be job placements. You work here, and then you get a job in Kenya. You're like, okay, I'm going to Kenya. Like, oh no, you're going to Kenya. Now, if you have a hard time building relationships, you struggle. The moment that person goes, you're like, now I'm lonely. So nobody here knows me. I've been around for 2 years. What do you mean nobody knows you? But indeed, nobody knows you because you've not built relationships with anyone else.
Come on, bro.
But are you building relationships? Guys, I said this because that has been my life. Get somewhere, build relationships. Yeah. You have to go. Okay. Get someone, build relationships. You have to go. And I don't know how long I'll be here. If you have a hard time building relationships, being a disciple will be very hard for you. But do you have the kind of maturity that Jesus had? See, in Ecclesiastes, Solomon is focusing on someone who's so focused on making a life for themselves that they don't stop to see their need for other people. Are we so busy making a life, making a living, that we forget to make a life?
That's bro.
Are we so busy making a living that we forget to make a life? John 15. Let's also talk about biblical friendship for a moment. John 15. Because our goal is not just to have friends amongst one another, but also to have God as our friend. John 15. In John 15, it says, Jesus is speaking to his disciples, he says, I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I've called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father I have made known to you. He goes on to tell them, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit. John 15, verse 12. From verse 12, let me start from verse 12. I actually started from verse 15. From verse 12, it says, my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You're my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I've called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father, I have made known to you. I can stop there for now. That's the love he showed us. He laid down his life for us. Now, for you to be a friend of God, you've got to obey God's word. How's it going obeying God's word? How is it going obeying God's word?
Question, bro.
You know, this is what biblical friendship looks like. You must ask yourself, what kind of friend are you to God? But also, what kind of friend are you towards one another?
Come on, bro.
You know, one of the fascinating things about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane? He didn't sit there and wait so that someone would come and ask him, Jesus, what's wrong?
Wow.
It's not like he got there and he was depressed and he sat in a corner and he was like, ah. They didn't hear, ah. I hope there's no one here like that. Yeah? You sit somewhere and you're just breathing out. Ah. Until someone comes, is everything okay? What's wrong? You even fold your face, you just. But Jesus was emotionally mature. He was struggling, and you know what he did? Said, the three of you come. This is what I'm going through. This is what I'm going through, guys. Do you have that kind of emotional maturity where you can go to someone and share what's going on before they even have to ask, are you okay? Because sometimes people have a lot going on in their lives.
Yeah.
They may be so busy they don't notice that you're going through a tough time. But do you have the emotional maturity to say, I know there's a lot going on, but can I speak to you for a moment? Let's sit and talk. There's a lot going on right now. I need your help.
That's a good question.
Do we have that emotional maturity? You know, sometimes we end up having issues with people. It's like, so-and-so didn't check on me. I had a saying that a phone works both ways.
Yeah.
So-and-so doesn't call me. Do you call them? So-and-so doesn't check on me. Do you check on them?
Question, bro.
Because building a relationship is two ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not that the other person doesn't want to build a relationship. Maybe they're caught up with something. But what kind of friend are you to one another? Let's go back to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes. From verse 13, we'll be reading from verse 13. From verse 13, it says, better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king, who no longer knows how to heed a warning. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 from verse 13. Better a poor but wise youth than an old but foolish king, who no longer knows how to heed a warning. The youth may have come from prison to the kingship, or he may have been born in poverty within his kingdom. I saw that all who lived and walked under the sun followed the youth, the king's successor. There was no end to all the people who were before them, but those who came later were not pleased with the successor. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. My second point is choose godly influence over worldly popularity. Choose godly influence over worldly popularity. Who has the greatest influence on you?
Good question.
Who has the greatest influence on you? Who is that person who their comment matters so much? The opinion of you matters so much that if you got an opinion from them that's contrary to where God wants you to be, you would follow them instead of God.
That's the bro. About it.
Who has the biggest influence on you? Is it a godly influence, or is it an influence that pulls you farther away from God? See, we see here a popular man, a king. In those days, it didn't get any better than that. Being a king is like having 800 million followers on Instagram. People are looking for you to give you sponsorship deals. You're a big deal, right? And we see here a king who grew old, and as he grew old, he lost his teachability. He was not willing to heed a warning. He was not willing to listen to guidance in order to change. And we see a young man who rose from a low position and was popular with the people. The people liked him, but eventually he too did not please those who came after. See, that's the issue with worldly popularity. You will never be able to please everyone. You will never be able to please everyone.
That's true.
Why do you think politicians are always finding new tactics to win? Because you will never please everyone. You have your original voters who got you into power. And then a new generation, Gen Z, comes. And now you're in your later years, maybe you're in your 60s, and somehow you have to get votes from Gen Z. And Gen Z don't like you. Right? And so all of a sudden you need to do new tactics. And you find, someone who would be calm and collected is showing up. I want to refrain from political discussions, right? But what am I trying to say in all this? Eventually, times change, and people who are constantly chasing popularity, you find yourself now looking for a way to keep getting popular, but not everybody will like you. In fact, the best example I can use is a conversation I overheard recently. Someone was talking about why nightclubs fail, right? And they talked about nightclubs fail because generations change. And someone's wondering, we're in church, we're using an example of a nightclub. Stick with me, it's just an example. I'm not encouraging anyone to go to nightclubs. But some of these things, you need to know them because one day you're going to go and win someone who is in the nightclub life. You need to be able to sit down and have a conversation with them. Here's why nightclubs fail. Because generations change. So our generation here, maybe you have a specific sport that you like to go to. You go there. Eventually you age and you're moving out of that nightclub. So the customers who used to go there have aged and gone to a certain stage in their life. And so now there's nobody going there because all the customers have moved on to family man, family woman, etc. So now the nightclub owner, in order to keep that place popular, needs to do something new in order to bring in now the new young group. So that's when you see people starting to remodel, starting to put all these promotions, whatnot, this, that, or the other, in order to bring in the younger people. So in order to keep popular, you need to keep doing what it takes to maintain that popularity. Now, why do I bring up that example? Because worldly popularity, it's not long-lasting. But is that what you're chasing? You want to be popular amongst your peers, among your family members, among your friends. And so you consistently need to learn how to be a chameleon, even if that affects your walk with God.
Come on, bro.
See, the thing with worldly popularity is that you will never be able to please everyone. And we must remember that the goal is to get better with time. Better for God, not bitter. Better.
Come on.
We saw a person in this text who, as he grew old, he became harder to correct. And as people grow old and they gain more life experiences, for some they find it hard to take input, like the old king. You've gotten so many different life experiences, you're like, surely I know what I'm doing. And taking input is hard. But how does that relate to us today? How does that relate to us today? Do you relate to this? Have you become hard to correct? Do you have a hard time taking input? See, Matthew 28, verse 19 to 20, Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations. Baptize them, and the final part that's very important, he said, teach them to obey everything. To teach to obey means that there must be someone in your life to consistently mentor you spiritually, consistently disciple you, to help you stay faithful to God. It's a significant part of walking faithfully with God. Every single Christian, every single disciple of Jesus, according to the Bible, is supposed to have a discipling relationship, supposed to have spiritual mentorship. And in our church today, we're big on this. We're big on this.
Come on, bro.
We're big on, everybody here has somebody, every single disciple has somebody in their life who mentors them so that they can be their best for God. And it's a big deal because you have somebody who is able to sit down with you and listen to all your life issues. Free of charge. People pay for this stuff. You have somebody who is willing to take time out of their day, sit down with you and mentor you and listen to your life issues and help you make decisions that will draw you closer to God, but at the same time also give you advice to help your life get better. They'll give you advice to help you deal with the situation you're currently in. And this was God's will for his people. This was God's will for his people. But do you take this for granted? Do we take this for granted? For the disciples in this room, are you giving your disciples a hard time? When the person who disciples you gives you a call, do they leave that call feeling like, why did I even call? Why did I even call? Have they gotten to the place where they feel like, I wish I was not discipling this person? No, because think about it, you don't pay them to give you a call, to follow up on you, to remind you of the different meetings of the body. You don't pay them. Are you giving them a hard time today? Or are you grateful for what they do? Are you grateful for what they do? You see, for those who are not discipling anyone at the moment, are you working on yourself? Are you working on yourself so that one day you can mentor someone spiritually and they can grow? Because it's not just about you. There's a saying, I didn't write it down here, but I think it's by, what's his name? Oh, no, I did write it down here. It's by John Maxwell. It says, if you run the race well, but you're unable to pass on the baton, you lose the race. You've seen those like 400 by 400, 100 by 100 by 4 by, those ones. Those ones where they hand over the baton. If you give your best, position number one, you fail to hand over to the next person, it drops. You've lost the race. You've lost the race. And Christianity is like a race. A race to make it to heaven. But you're not racing against other people. You're running with them. But if you're not able to hand over the baton, if you're not able to help someone, then that race is lost already. But are you working on yourself to be able to help someone else? See, to be honest, we won't assign you someone to disciple if you're not working on yourself. Why? Because the Bible calls us to set an example in faith, in love, in purity, in basically every area of our lives. Are you working on yourself so that you can be a godly influence on someone else? See, if you don't have the teachability to be able to work on yourself, how are you going to teach someone else? It's said that the best teachers are the best students. I'm not so sure how true that saying is because I'm thinking about my primary teachers. But the reality of it is, hey, Michelle says, no, it's true. It's true, yeah. Because Michelle, that one was personal to him. Like, yeah. You know? You know, but are you passing on the baton? See, the Bible even tells us, I remember it's in 2 Timothy chapter 2, where Paul is speaking to Timothy and is telling him that everything you've learned from me, entrust to reliable people who will be able to teach others. Are you that reliable person?
Question, bro.
See, if you're unable to pass the baton and Christianity fails, it actually explains a lot. You see, when you think about that saying is true because you see it today. Why do you think that Christianity is in the terrible state that it's in today? Why do you think there's all this hypocrisy? Yeah, people walk away from Christianity today because it's so hypocritical. Someone is practicing something completely different from what they preach. Why? Because people have moved away from this. They're not following this, they're not obeying it. But imagine if people were obeying it, genuinely making disciples, baptizing them and teaching them to obey. And then that person who they've done that for goes and does the same for someone else. Before you know it, you have 100 people who are consistently holding firm to the right thing. There's no hypocrisy in there. Hypocrisy comes in when we fail to do this. But are you working on yourself so that you can help others? Matthew 9. Matthew 9. I want to bring it in for a close shortly. Matthew 9, verse 35. Matthew 9, verse 35. You see, if we're to be the best we can and help other people, we also need to have the kind of mindset that Jesus had right here. Matthew 9:35. In Matthew 9:35, it says, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and illness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Do you think about this when you share your faith? When you meet someone, because sometimes, to be honest, you see someone dressed really smartly, but the day they show up and sit down for a Bible study, say, man, I couldn't tell that you were going through all this.
Yeah.
Because it's not like there's a signpost on top of someone's head, I'm struggling. We'll dress well, we'll put ourselves together, we'll put up a facade, an image, a bold front. A bold front. It's only until you sit down with someone. It's only with this mindset of, I know they may look smart, but I'm going to have compassion. That's the only way we'll give our best to helping people. That's the only way we'll give our best to helping people. You see, if you're in a discipling relationship and you're not growing, it's a call to examine yourself. It's a call to examine yourself. Proverbs 9. Proverbs 9.
Come on, bro.
Proverbs chapter 9. Proverbs chapter 9, we'll be looking at verse 7. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 7. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 7. It says, whoever corrects a mocker invites insults. Whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Do not rebuke mockers or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise and they will love you. Yeah. How do you feel when you get discipling? Do you feel like a discipler is your enemy? How do you feel when you're in a Bible study and the person who is studying the Bible with you calls you out? You talk about something you're not comfortable with, so that you can be better for God. See, the Bible says that if someone is trying to correct you, to rebuke you, and you hate them, the Bible calls you a mocker. The Bible calls you a mocker. And it says that when you rebuke that kind of person, they'll hate you. Do you hate the person that's trying to give you, help you be the best you can for God? Have they become your worst enemy? In verse 9, it goes on to say, are you wise or are you foolish? In verse 9, it goes on to say, instruct the wise and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous and they will add to their learning. If you're not wise, you're a fool. And so if you have a hard time with correction, if the person trying to correct you is becoming your enemy, then you're not wise. I don't know if you've seen those memes where the person says, I've been reading Proverbs and I continue seeing that I'm the fool.
Yeah.
You know? Why does the fool look a lot like me? You know? But guys, how are you doing? Do you see discipling as a privilege? It is a privilege, but do you value it? Do you value the time? Do you value the time? As we close out here, I think one of the things we need to understand is Solomon is telling us the cure of loneliness. He's telling us to choose honest relationships over prideful independence. See, you need people. You can't do it alone. He's telling you to choose godly influence over worldly popularity. See, people on social media don't really care about you. But the godly people genuinely care about you. They want you to be your best for God. Choose that over worldly popularity, looking good in front of people. See, for our guests here, we want you to know that we want to be your friend. We genuinely want to be your friends. Perhaps all the time that has been spent on social media, we can spend it together in a Bible study.
Yeah.
And studies can be fun, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, I like to make Bible studies fun. I like to sit down with people and we'll talk about all different things. Now, we won't laugh from beginning to end. That would be, that would be a comedy show. But we'll talk about different things in life. We'll use examples from the world, sports and so on, and things that relate to different people. But at the end of the day, we'll find the best way to help you stay faithful to God. Is that what you're looking for? Psalm 68. As we close out here, I want us to close out with Psalm 68. Psalm 68. Psalm 68, from verse 6. Psalm 68, verse 6 says, God sets the lonely in families. He leads out the prisoners with singing, but the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. See, if you're lonely today, God wants to set you in his family, in his church. But at the end of the day, also consider the fact that if you're rebellious, you'll end up in an uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
You'll end up in a place that you don't like to be in. And it will be only you to blame. See, Solomon has helped us understand what the cure to loneliness is. But you have a choice to make today. And I genuinely hope you make the right choice. Thank you, and may God bless you.